There is a reason Viking ships, halls and harbour structures continue to astonish archaeologists. Timber that should have collapsed into rot instead endured centuries of salt spray, freezing winters, wet soil and constant stress. This was not accidental preservation, and it was not a single magic substance. It was a deliberate system that treated wood as a living material even after the tree was cut. Understanding this system reveals why much of today's treated lumber fails in conditions Viking wood survived routinely. Why Viking wood preservation began long before the axe struck the tree. Viking wood care started in the forest. Trees were chosen slowly, often marked seasons in advance. Winter felling was preferred because sap levels were at their lowest. Sap carries sugars that feed decay organisms, and Vikings understood that timber cut when sap was dormant lasted longer. In some regions, trees were ring-barked months before harvest, starving them gradually and forcing resins to concentrate in the heartwood. This strengthened the timber internally before it was ever shaped. Why sapwood removal was considered essential rather than wasteful. Modern lumber retains sapwood to maximize yield. Vikings did the opposite. Sapwood was stripped away aggressively, even though it meant discarding usable volume. Viking builders accepted material loss in exchange for durability measured in generations rather than years. Why slow seasoning replaced speed and convenience? Once cut and shaped, timber was air-seasoned for long periods, sometimes for several years. It was stacked off the ground, shielded from rain, but exposed to airflow. Vikings did not need scientific terminology to know that rushed wood failed faster. Now, one of the most misunderstood steps in Viking wood preservation is smoke curing. You see, smoke wasn't just a byproduct, it was actually used as a chemical tool. Beams, planks and tool handles were often stored above hearths or in smokehouses. And, well, this was intentional. Smoke deposits phenols and organic acids into wood fibres, which, you know, creates an environment that's really hostile to fungi and insects. On top of that, smoke also reduced moisture absorption and added flexibility, helping to prevent brittle failure in those cold climates. Now, why was pine tar considered the final and decisive barrier? Well, the most famous element of Viking wood preservation was pine tar itself. It was produced through the slow heating of resin-rich pine roots and heartwood in oxygen-poor pits, resulting in a tar that was thick, acidic, and deeply penetrative. When applied hot, it soaked into wood fibres rather than sitting on the surface. This displaced moisture, sealed oxygen out, and poisoned decay organisms chemically rather than mechanically. Often, pine tar was blended with animal fats or fish oil to improve penetration and flexibility. The result was not a paint, it was a transformation of the wood itself. Why Viking preservation worked as a system rather than a shortcut. Each step reinforced the others. Winter felling reduced sap. Sapwood removal eliminated vulnerability. Slow seasoning preserved structure. Smoke altered chemistry. Pine tar sealed and stabilized everything beneath it. Removing one step weakened the entire process. This is why modern attempts to replicate Viking durability often fail. They apply tar to poorly prepared wood and expect miracles. Why do modern treatments fail where Viking methods succeed? Well, pressure-treated wood, you see, relies on water-soluble chemicals that are forced into the timber rather quickly. But over time, these chemicals tend to leach out, especially in wet or marine environments. Viking methods, on the other hand, used insoluble resin-based compounds that actually remained locked inside the wood. Instead of washing away, the protection would improve as the timber aged and hardened. So, how can this knowledge be applied today? Well, this system is not lost, it's simply ignored. Anyone working with outdoor wood can, adopt its principles. So, when you're putting this into practice, it's best to choose slow-grown timber whenever you can. Really, try to avoid sapwood, as it just doesn't hold up as well. Let the wood air dry for an extended period. Patience is key here. If you can, expose the wood to smoke, but make sure it's done in controlled conditions. When it comes to treatment, always apply genuine pine tar or tar oil blends while they're warm, not cold. In the early years, reapply the treatment lightly, then afterwards only as needed. Treated this way, fence posts can last for decades, even when buried in soil. Outdoor beams stand up to the weather, and you won't see those coatings peeling off. Boat planks survive salt water without the need for modern epoxies. And, well, tool handles become tougher and are much less likely to crack. Why did Viking builders trust results over theory? Well, they did not speak of microbes or polymers, but they observed cause and effect over generations. Wood treated this way darkened, hardened, and resisted decay. Knowledge was passed through apprenticeship, not books, which made it resilient but, at the same time, vulnerable to disruption when industrial systems replaced craft traditions. Viking wood stayed alive for centuries because it was prepared, transformed, and protected with intention. If uncovering the forgotten logic behind ancient survival technologies matters to you, do consider subscribing to the Thermal Vault channel and share this guide with fellow history enthusiasts. Keeping this knowledge alive ensures it is not lost again to convenience and short-term thinking.